Evening, chaps. How are we?
Good evening. Very well, thank you. How are you two?
Yeah, very good, thank you.
Excellent. Yeah, very good indeed. Any Porsche news from your end?
I've been unsuccessful in getting my wheels done, so that's not a good start.
Why's that? As in they don't fit, or?
No, just haven't been able to get them on the car yet. I've just been non-stop busy, and it's just it's been pushed down the to-do list. So need to get on and get it done because it's getting a bit pressing now.
So we'll save the chat for them not fitting for next episode then, yeah?
All right. Oh. Just because you got yours already.
I might be able to help you with that, Joe. I'm thinking about buying a lift for the garage.
Oh,
so it could make fitting easier.
Yeah. How soon are you buying a lift?
In the next couple of weeks, I think.
Oh, okay. Well, if I've there's a reasonable chance that I won't have got around to it by then, so it might be good timing.
Yeah, it might spur you on.
But,
mate, it's a good idea. You are absolutely the tinkerer of the group, Andy. So I feel like a lift is an inevitable purchase.
Yeah, I think it needs to be done. Been thinking about it for a long time, and it's now's the time to do it. I think get on.
Sounds good.
So who have we got on tonight?
Tonight we have Michael O'Neill from Rennch.
I've been watching a few of his videos over the last few months.
Yeah, really interesting. Really interesting chap. He's very, very hands-on. He's built a car ground up and about to embark on the second one. So some really quite in-depth stuff of some sort of from a good spanner turning point of view, I think.
Sounds good.
Definitely.
Sounds good.
Yes. Sounds like lots is about to be learnt here then, isn't it? So let's bring him in, shall we?
Yeah, let's
dive in. I think we dive straight in at his garage story. So let's do it.
Michael, there's garage goals, isn't there? And then there's what you've done. You were just talking just off air about how you've moved from Texas to California purely for the garage. Nothing to do with the house. Is that right?
Well, I was in San Diego, so I was already in California.
Yeah. Okay.
But I was smashed into this little single car garage, and I'm trying to build this YouTube channel, and I can't. Like, to build a YouTube channel, you have to have a build. Like, you have to have a car that you're working on regularly, because that's how you keep subscribers and make new ones. And so I couldn't really do that in my little single car garage, because the first 6 months of this build is going to be all grinding and cutting and welding. And it's super loud. I'm hammering, and I have neighbors everywhere. So when this place opened up and had 4 cars, I said, well, I'm going to take one for the team and move up to Long Beach. And so then I just really made the garage my own. I really tried to make it into this, not only like a workspace, but an event space. I put 5.1 surround sound. I have a whole wall that's like a video screen. It's just got cool like LED lighting. And it's a cool spot that I want people to come and congregate to do, before we go to Cars and Coffee or something like that.
Nice. How did you find the house?
It was someone in the neighborhood just sent me they sent me pictures, and they said, hey, this popped up in my neighborhood, and the third picture was like two double car garage, next to each other. And I said, what is that? And so I called the landlord, and she said, yeah, it's got a 4-car garage. I'm like, all right, I'll be there in 2 hours, And when I got there, she was in the garage, and I just walked in. I said, great, I'll take it. And she was like, do you want to see the inside of the house? I'm like, inconsequential. It doesn't matter at all. Like, unless it leaks like a sieve, I'm fine, But thankfully the place is really cool. So I'm excited.
That is nuts.
Where is it? Long Beach, isn't it?
Yeah, it's in Long Beach. So I'm 5.5 miles from the Porsche Experience Center, LA.
Yeah.
I am right down the road from Rassant, Will Hoyt Restorations. I've got SoCal Imports. I've got, I'm amazed at how close some of the most legendary Porsche shops in the world are. And that's just here. This is there's a little, it's interesting because different cities have little different bunches. 30 minutes away in Costa Mesa, which is a little south, there's another, half a dozen or a dozen Porsche places. So you can really bomb around and just go place to place. But I have to say that, like, on this new build I'm doing, I'm going to be doing lead filler, instead of like Bondo on it.
Yeah.
And, there's a handful of guys probably left in the world that do that stuff. And the one guy's like a mile from here, and that's one of the cool things about being right in the middle of the scene.
Yeah, it's exactly that. It's the place to be, isn't it, for the US and California in particular. Michael, where did all of this madness start? You're clearly not not a pen pusher like me, for example. You're very hands-on with your projects and stuff. So how did the Porsche link to what you do come about?
You're saying, how did it get in me? Like, how did Porsche get its tentacles in me like this?
Exactly.
Is that what you're asking?
Exactly that.
It does as well, doesn't it?
It really does. It's funny. Like, you remember the commercial when the first 997 Carrera commercial with the kid who rides his bike to the dealership and then and you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So my buddy sent me that and he's like, dude, pass the Kleenex. And I totally felt, I'm like, God, how am I getting teary-eyed over this commercial for a car company? Like, how did that happen? And it's weird. I was a kid in Pennsylvania, outside of Philadelphia, which is on the east coast of the U.S. And I was dating Allison Goldfarb, and her dad had a black 911 Turbo, and her best friend's dad, Tori, he had one of the 75 street legal Porsche 935s available in the 80s. And she just called it the white car. And for whatever period of time that was, for a year, whatever it was, I was around those cars all the time. So every time I go to either of their houses, the first thing I would do is go to the garage and just check it out and just like ogle over these things. And a really funny story about Tori. I'll keep the names out of it. Her dad was the CEO of a very, very prominent crystal company. Like if you were buying really fancy china for a wedding gift or something, and he had this super rare 911, and it turned out that he and my girlfriend's dad raced a vintage 356 in Porsche vintage racing. So he really knew how to drive. Like it wasn't just he was a through and through Porsche guy. And I had called Tori for a ride home from work because she was the first of our friends to drive. Like she was 15 or whatever, just turned 16 and she was like the first one to get her license. And so I called her up for a ride home from work at the video store. And 20 minutes later, the white car pulls up and her dad is driving and Tori's in the little smashed into the back of this car. And I said, holy, and so we get on the street and imagine on the right side is a river that splits Pennsylvania and New Jersey. It's called the Delaware River.
Yeah.
On the left side, we're on this little 2-lane windy sort of river road. There's, and it's a 35 mile per hour road, which is what, 50K ish, something like that. Anyway,
spot on.
So we get on this road. It's about 5:00 and, the dad looks in the rearview mirror and says, so what do you think, Tori? Should we show him what this thing will do? And before she nods her head, I am pinned to the back of this car with twin turbos doing what twin turbos do. And we're going like 120 miles an hour on this little 2-lane road, just flying. And so he looks ahead and the entire dashboard lights up because there's a cop that just nailed us at like 100 whatever, 100 and a lot. And so he pulls over, the cop pulls us over. And by the way, this was the first time I had ever seen what, maybe this is like white privilege in action, but this was really interesting. This is when I realized that people that are wealthy sometimes live a different reality than the rest of us do. Guy comes over, he's pissed. Tori's dad says, "Hey, will you hand me my license, registration?" And he gives the guy license, registration, and a business card. Guy pulls him right out of the car, puts his hand on the hood. So he's like getting ready to arrest the dude, right? Guy goes to the back of the car, comes back, and then he says, "Sir, if I had this car, I'd want to air it out every once in a while too. but not at 5 o'clock and not on this road. Have a nice day. And I was like, what just happened? And Tori, my friend, says, Daddy's the #1 donor to the Police Benevolent Association, which was true. And I go, oh, there is such a thing as a get out of jail free card. I just experienced it. So I really loved that just being around those cars. And then in high school, I bought a Volkswagen Carmen Ghia. I restored my first Volkswagen Carmen Ghia, which, by the way, is on my very short list of the next couple cars I want to do. I want to do an electric Ghia, I think. And I, excuse me, and I just had this amazing, righty tighty, lefty loosey. Don't be afraid of, taking a bolt off and sanding it down and repainting it and putting it back on, kind of thing. And that was really the first experience I had with old German and with restoration. And so fast forward many years, and I was a racer. I was an autocross racer, and I just won the championship the previous year in a 89 Civic Si. And my good buddy, JJ, and it's his birthday today, JJ, at Collier Brands. Really cool dude to follow if you're a Porsche fan, at Collier Brands on Instagram. But he pulls up, and it pulls up in this orange 78 SC. And I was like, what is that? And it was weird because I was like, oh, I didn't know we were old enough to buy Porsches. You know what I mean? Like, it always felt like an older guy thing to do. And meanwhile, here we are in our 30s, and he pulls up in this really cool car. And so that really opened it up for me. So in 2003, I bought my first 72 911T from a guy in New York. It was a terrible car. I bought it for $8,000.
What color was it?
It was black. It was supposed to be yellow, but it was black.
Yeah.
I did everything wrong. I didn't do a PPI, pre-purchase inspection. I didn't get, a ton of pictures. When I got there and I saw the things that were wrong, I didn't go, you know what? This isn't for me. Let me cut bait and walk away. I was just like, yay, Porsche. So I flew up. I flew to New York City. I took a bus or whatever, a train to where this car was. I bought the car on the spot. I drove it all the way back to Colorado, which is 3,000 miles or something. And then right in the middle of Nebraska, about 6 hours from my house, the engine blew up. Yeah. And it blew up because a squirrel or some other animal had built a nest around one of the cylinders, and it had just completely overheated one of the cylinders. So I bought a 3-liter, stuffed that in there, and then I had this little 72 hot rod. And that was my first kind of, that was my first little restoration experience with these things.
And that was in Colorado, were you?
Yeah, it was Colorado. Yeah. And the car was terrible.
You missed the roads?
No, I live in California. The roads are great here. There's no, everything that every other state has, California also has. And then it also has the ocean and all the other stuff. But, we get taxed a lot and stuff too. But it's okay. You pay a lot, you pay a lot of extra taxes for 75 and sunny.
Indeed.
Definitely did.
So what was next then after that?
Well, so my buddy Matt Monson emailed me out of the blue. He says, hey, I know you've been thinking about replacing this car, because it really was terrible. The car that I bought had been hit. It was wrecked in the front. It was all out of alignment. And it was just really, it was a terrible car. And even now, knowing what I know, like, I think I could probably rebuild it, but it was a bad car. Like, I just made a bad purchase, and it had too much rust on it. It was just a mess.
And I guess at that time, it wasn't worth as much, was it? So
no, not at all.
I paid
$8,000 for the whole car.
Yeah, easier just to go out and buy something better and get rid of that one. Yeah,
and which is what happened. So my buddy Matt said, "Hey, there's this red 911 sitting in the weeds in this little town in Colorado." So I go over and I knock on the guy's door and I say, "Do you want to sell it?" He goes, "Oh, I'm going to store it. I'm going to restore it." I go, "We made a deal," and I said, "Look, let me I just really need the chassis. Let me give you $5,000 for it. And if I sell the engine and transmission and stuff, I'll just give you the money for it." And he goes, "All right, fine." So I did that. And, which is, again, I'm not a great negotiator at this point. That's really what we're learning. I could have just bought the car, but anyway. So I bought this 69 911T, that was really it was supposed to be kind of a rust-free car, which it was complete. That was one really cool thing, is it was a very complete car, but I did end up having to replace inner and outer rockers on each side, the gas tank support. I did the front end, battery box stuff, and I'd never welded before. And mind you, this is 2005, so this is before YouTube. I was using Pelican for everything, like I would. It's so funny. Yesterday, I went through all of my Pelican posts that I've ever posted. So I went to the advanced search, and then I searched for my own username, and then I searched for, you can pull the pull down menu down and search for threads that you've started. And I thought, this is interesting. So I went all the way back to my Porsche journey, and it was really cool, actually. And I was sort of watching myself learn, and I think that's one of the really cool things when you break these things down.
Isn't it? Yeah.
It's a very simple car. This is not a really complicated, this is a Volkswagen Bug, it's a pretty simple overall car. It's beautifully engineered and beautifully made. And when you watch someone who's great at restoring them, you do see how much care was put into every little aspect of this car versus someone like me. Like I'm ambitious with a welder. You know what I mean? I'm not a craftsman. I'm an enthusiast that doesn't know better. So
every time you work on it, you learn, don't you? That's the
every time. Yesterday I replaced the wheels on I made a welding cart out of an old bed frame, and I replaced the wheels. I still had the bed wheels that were on it, and they were terrible in the garage. So I went to our local parts place called Harbor Freight, and I just bought some casters, and I welded them on. And I looked down, I said, those welds are getting pretty good, for crying out loud. Like, it's getting pretty good. And I'm notorious for my pigeon poop welds, but I'm getting better at them. Anyway, so I get this car, the 69T, and I replace the stuff I replaced. And I documented the entire build on Pelican. I mean, all of it. And I want to say, I think it's the 11th most popular thread. And I think it's the 4th most popular build on Pelican, in terms of numbers.
Yeah.
That specific build thread has done really well. And so I built this car, and it was at the time both my parents were sick, and they both ended up passing away. And me working in that garage was such a catharsis. It was such a place where I could go and just clock out. And one of the really amazing things to me of working in the garage is the problem solving. You're really sort of focused and you have all of these problems you need to solve. And it's one of my favorite sort of human experiences is to work through stuff like that. It's the real appeal to me of being in the garage. And I wouldn't ever consider myself an artist, but like I said, I'm an enthusiast who's unafraid to dig into it. So I will buy a welder, I will buy a cutting tool, and I will cut something off and fix it and weld it back on. Like, that is something I will definitely do. In the case of this car, I did so many things that I'd never done before. A couple of engine swaps. I literally built everything myself, like including making the door cards. I cut all the carpet and bound it. I bought a sewing machine so I could bind the carpeting myself. I completely redid this dashboard that was completely destroyed.
It's impressive.
How do you get to that point, Michael? Is it a case of you just rolling your sleeves up and saying, well, look, how bad can it be? Or are you thinking, well, I'm sure as hell not paying anybody to do this, where was your mindset?
When I built it, I had no money. When I got it, these things have gone up crazily in value. But when I was first building it, I just didn't have any cash. It was not something I had a bunch of money. And so I just did it all on a shoestring. And then as things have gone better for me and I've advanced and my career's gotten better, I've gone back and improved things that I did initially. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the biggest thing with the car, here's a pretty interesting thing. So this car's gray. And when people ask me what the color is, I say it's rando gray. and they're like looking, and they're Googling it, trying to find where Rando Gray is. And I'm just thinking this is just a random color that I picked from a catalog, which is why I call it Rando Gray. And which is true. I mean, I spent 4 hours at the paint shop, like just looking at these swatches and swatches and swatches and swatches. It's 100-to-1 compliments on my car is the color. There's something about that particular color gray. And the fact is, I did it in 2005. So now that gray is, in vogue, when I go to a car show and I see 10 gray cars and, then I pull mine up, it doesn't seem that exciting anymore. But I'm like, 15 years ago, nobody had this. There's a couple things nobody had. Nobody was doing other than Black Beauty, which is Jack Olson's car, no one had a lot of RSR, resto mods.
Yeah.
And nobody had gray at all. So, I did gray with yellow headlights and a red interior, and it's got a nice little design pop to it because I'm a designer. It's what I did for a career for so long. So, that part was a really big deal. And the other part, which I thought was interesting, is when I moved from Colorado to San Diego, I'm still, I built this entire car in Colorado, and I would, come up and do San Diego. Well, when Lufacult, I want to say it was 3. It was the one that was at Modernica, which is a modern furniture place. And so I was going in with all the R Group guys, and there was this big long line. And this guy was like, imagine the guy who does the directions on an airport runway. He's got the 2 glowing sticks and he's pointing, right?
Yeah.
So he's sending all those R Group guys to the left. And when I get there, he points me to the right. And I thought, that's interesting. So I go to the right, and all of a sudden I'm in this warehouse full of photographers, and there's just people shooting this car left and right. And I get there, and this other guy says, "Hey, I'm with X&O magazine. Can we do a shoot with your?" I said, "Oh, okay." And so we go from that shoot to the next shoot, and so my car's just bouncing around this thing, and I'm like, "What's up with this?" And the guy said, "Oh, we've been following this car for like 8 years. This is the first time we've seen it in person." I said, "Oh my God, I had no idea." Like, my car was sort of internet famous in Southern California. And now that it was actually there, people were trying to get, I had no idea because I was building it in Colorado. I didn't know. What did I know? So that was kind of cool. That was kind of a cool experience anyway that I had. Anyway, so that's, the car has gone through a couple of engine swaps. I have hours of stories to tell about this restoration, but I'm sure you guys want to move on to different things.
It's good to hear, and it's good to hear how your story has evolved from that first car into, well, it's become a hell of a project, isn't it? A hell of a project.
Yeah, it's the one. One thing I didn't mention is that my parents passed away as I was building it, and so I mixed their ashes into the first layer of primer as I did it, which is kind of cool.
Really?
Yeah.
Whoa! How long ago was that? I'm very sorry to hear about your parents, by the way.
That was
on the human side of things.
That was 2008, I think, ish. Yeah, right around there.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty crazy.
I mean, the car's a keeper then.
Yeah.
So I was at Monterey. Obviously, like maybe 2 years ago, I think is probably the peak of the pricing that we've seen for these cars.
Yeah.
And I was in Monterey for Monterey Car Week. It was the first time I'd ever gone there. And what an experience that was. Oh my God. It was just unreal. It was baffling. It was baffling. It was like I went to Jay Leno's garage 2 days ago, 1 year ago. So 1 year ago, it was like for Luft. And it was so confusing there. It's like, so Monterey Car Week is essentially like, it's the most confusing thing you've ever seen because every car you've ever even thought of is just running around in Monterey. And so it's not the cars that you seek, it's the cars that you skip to check out the car that's next to it.
Yeah.
Where in any other format, you go, oh my God, there's a McLaren F1. You're like, yeah, cool. But there's like 3 Porsche 959 sitting next to it, So I was at a Mexican place. I forget what they call it. And this guy walks up and he goes, how much do you want for your car? And I go, it's not for sale. And he goes, everything's for sale. I go, well, it would have to be absurd. Me knowing what I know. I go, it would have to be absurd. And he goes, how about 2.25? And I go, absurd for me, not for you. So So that was the last one I turned down, which was $225 for it. I don't think I could get $70 for it now, but
I like the response in terms of absurd for me, not for you. It's basically keep going, sir. Keep going.
It hasn't gotten absurd for me yet. It's like, dude, don't do your best, do my best.
So Michael, where is Rennch going then? Like, what's your vision for what you're creating here?
So it's to me it's Rennch is which is Rennch. I'm trying to build this YouTube channel now. It's an interesting, like everybody, I have these ideas for different products all the time, right? But I needed a kind of a vehicle, and I had this idea for an app a few years ago, which was kind of a Porsche mechanic in your pocket. So if you want to do a valve adjustment or an oil change or something fairly simple, I wanted to have this Rennch app on your phone, and you would just go almost like, excuse me, like iTunes or something, where you pay 99 cents and just be like, cool, I want to adjust my parking brake. And so you pay 99 cents and you have this nice full tutorial on how to adjust your parking brake. So that was kind of the original idea. And I'm not a professional mechanic, so I needed some help. So I partnered with a guy in San Diego, and we were going to bang these videos out. So one of the first videos we did was installing a 3.6. So I did a 3.6 swap into my 69. And we did this whole thing. We shot a bunch of videos and all this kind of other stuff. And I said, dude, we need to build a library of videos. So just let me know whenever you have, a brake job coming up or an oil change or whatever, and I'll come up and I'll shoot it and I'll put it all together. And he goes, okay. Well, I had such a hard time getting him to play ball. It's weird because it's a mechanic is not a social media person generally. You guys know this. You get these great old school guys that are amazing. They don't even know what Instagram is or what, and here's me trying to be like this new media guy and create this thing. Well, I thought, I can't really do that because it's not working. I can't get the guy to play ball and shoot these videos. So I thought maybe I'll switch over to YouTube. But to grow a YouTube channel, you need a build. You need to do something on it so people subscribe. So with Rennch, I have this idea. Do you guys know what Deus Ex Machina is?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
You heard that? And there's one in Venice. If you've ever been there. Yeah. It's just really cool lifestyle brand that is sort of vintage motorcycle meets Steve McQueen meets like hipster coolness, Rennch is sort of the Porsche version of that in my brain. Rennch is like, I want someone to, get into their car, be wearing a nice watch, listen to Sinatra, have some good shoes, and enjoy like a twisty Sunday, before brunch or something. Like that's my guy. And I want him to work on his own car and, not be afraid if something breaks down in the middle of the street or something. But what I want to do is create these products and services, mostly products, I guess, that are geared towards that dude. So I have a set of coveralls that I'm developing right now. I have a bag that it's called Jack in the Bag. So we have this company called Harbor Freight, which is like this kind of a cheap Chinese tool company, but everybody has their blue race jack. Yeah. It's like this blue aluminum jack that everybody has. Like when you go to a track day or an autocross or something, everyone has the same jack, but there's nowhere to put it. So I developed this really cool custom bag that has like, houndstooth and leather, and it fits right into the frunk in front of the car. It clips to your strut bar mount. Just this really cool bag. So I'm developing these products. Ultimately, I see it being a retail store of some sort, or at least kind of a hangout lifestyle, maybe coffee shop kind of deal. And to do that, I need proof of concept. I literally think I could go get the financing for it right now if I wanted to. But for my own personal, my own personal beliefs, I want 10,000 subscribers or 25,000 or 50,000 subscribers to the YouTube channel, so that I know I can walk into any room and say, look, I already have this huge following. They're already purchasing things. Like, here's the money that Rennch has made via YouTube in the last year. And regardless of what happens with the retail space, this is like a viable business. So will you invest? That's kind of the vision for it. And to do all of this, in any good YouTube channel, you need a build. So I invested last year. I found, you guys will love this. This guy had a 1969 911S race car. So in 1994, he and his son had built this race car. And these guys were full-on race engineers. Like, this is a full GT2 race car. And then so they built it. They didn't have a motor. They didn't have a gearbox or wiring or a motor in it yet. And they got into a falling out.
So you just bought the shell as such with all the panels?
I bought everything except, yeah, right. So it was just this rolling chassis, but it has integrated roll cage, 935 rear suspension, camber adjustability in the front and the rear, dual master cylinders, race seat. Like, it's got, fuel safe, fuel cell. It's got every cool thing you would do if you were making a killer hot rod.
Yeah.
And I'm using it as the base of what I'm calling the blasphemy build. So I've been working on the body, on the car, on the YouTube channel. I've been working on the car to bring it back to at least look like a 69 911S. I'm starting with, like, let me have that first before I get into the mods,
So that's your goal is to bring it back to its original 69 rather than, because hasn't it got sort of 993 look panels on it at the moment, isn't it? Or
it did. Yeah. It had those lasted about a day in my care. It had this big GT2 993 GT2 fiberglass kit on it, big wide body kit. So that went away. Then it kind of looked like a cockroach because it had no panels on it at all. And then Restoration Design wanted to sponsor the build, so they sent me quarter panels and fenders, which was cool.
Excellent.
And I've just been doing the rockers on each side. I've just finished the rockers, and I'm trimming the left side quarter. And then I should be able to assemble the whole rear of the car. And according to what I'm told, these cars were built from the rear forward. So to get the rear right, everything else will hopefully settle in.
Yeah.
That's the hope anyway. I've never done any of this stuff. I've never replaced quarters or done any of that. Yeah. So it's been a cool learning experience for me to, I'm looking at millimeters, trying to make sure it's all right. But it's a really cool build. And I think I'm getting better on YouTube, and I'm getting better on the car. And the whole thing is kind of growing.
So how long has that build been going now?
Let's see. I bought the car in September of last year.
Yeah.
And then I really only got to do 2 or 3 videos in my old place because first I was waiting for panels, and then I just didn't have the space. I didn't have the space to be able to do it. So it actually really started up again when I moved here in March.
Cool.
So I've really, it's relatively early on.
Yeah.
But I'm not putting a Porsche motor in it.
Ooh.
FYI.
What's going
That's why it's called the blasphemy bill.
Yeah. Okay. So, proceed with your confession then, Michael. What's going on?
That's right. Well, so let's talk about what we're looking at. Right, we're looking at a completely empty car. I have an open canvas. I can do anything I want.
Yeah.
If I were to get and this is U.S. pricing, I'll throw you. If I were to get, let's say, an SC motor for it, it would be about $15,000 for that motor. Maybe I could get a good one for 10, let's say.
Yeah.
But if I wanted to rebuild it and make sure it was dialed, then it's another, like my buddy literally is just finishing his. It's at least $15,000 for the rebuild. I think it's 12 and just in parts.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably closer to 20. So let's say I'm in for $30,000 for a 180 horsepower flat 6 motor with CIS or carbs. Okay. Now I can get another motor that was also designed by Porsche. That's also a flat 6 that has modern fuel injection. It's water cooled and it's stock at 240 horsepower and it's $1,200.
Yeah.
So It's called the Subaru EZ30.
Yeah.
And it was co-designed by Porsche. You can think of it like a SC motor with a VTEC.
Okay.
And for about 10 grand, I can do what I want with it, which is put twin turbos, and it has modern fuel injection, and I can control it with my iPhone, and it'll be a fire-breathing beast. And even if it breaks, I'm like $1,200. It costs me. That's like one piston of an SC.
That is cool because, like, yes, there'll be purists that might scoff at that, but I tell you what, as you say, from a price point of view, you cannot argue with that. And as you say, you can keep an eye on that engine from your phone. Practicality point of view, there is no counter argument to it. So I think that's
it's
awesome.
reliable.
And as we were talking at the top of the chat about how particularly California is a melting pot for Porsche enthusiasts, and there's so many variations on the Porsche culture, and you're an example of that, Michael. In doing something different that's still completely bloody cool.
Well, it's going to be, first of all, it's going to still sound awesome. It's still a flat six.
Yeah.
It's going to still have that raspy flat six sound. I'm mating it to a 996 gearbox. So it's a 6-speed cable shift gearbox.
Yeah.
Because the whole thing's been all cored out anyway. I can fit it in. So I already own the gearbox. There's going to be a challenge of mating the engine to the gearbox because neither one of them have a mount for a starter. So I actually have to do the starter mount on the tool, on the adapter plate.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
But we'll get there. It's just going to be, and I'm really excited about just having this fire breathing, reliable kind of thing. To me, that sounds like a cool idea.
I'll let you into a little secret. So quite a while ago, probably 10 years or more. So we used to drag race, old bugs, old Beetles, and use the Subaru, what was it? The EJ20 and the EJ22 motor. And that worked really well. And same sort of thing. We'd buy like an old Subaru Legacy and literally cut the front off it and, hijack the motor out of it and, make up the adapter plates and that sort of thing. And lots of people would turn their nose up at it. But like you said, when you get double the power for a tenth of the cost, it's
double. Yeah. I'm going to be almost triple. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's going to be,
it's going to be a monster.
Crazy bit of kit. So
where did you guys mount your radiators?
We did both. We did both ends actually. So I ran one bug with a flip front, and we put it up front with a little scoop underneath it you couldn't really see, which dives some of the air upwards. And on the other one, we ran really short pipes, and we actually mounted it above the motor in the back, and that actually worked really well and shortened all the loom down. So we only ran, the wiring went down to a couple of feet from like 16 feet of spaghetti wiring, and with the rad mounted on top of the motor at the back, there was enough airflow going that way, and that worked pretty well as well.
That's what Mighty Car Mods did with their Sleeper Beetle. They put it above. What did you use for piping to go from the back to the front? You remember?
A couple of different things. So we either ran rigid pipes down the running boards down one side, and then would just run sort of flexies, just doing the laugh tee-offs. And then on the short runs, we could run flexible pipe, and it was probably 8 or 10 mil thick. That's the sort of the rubber hose piping. You could buy it in long lengths that would be temperature dependent and whatnot, and that worked pretty well.
Okay. Yeah, I'm fortunate because I have full access to the tunnel on this car. It's all cut out. It's all been sort of opened up to accept, I think, a G50, but I think I can fit 2 hard, tubes right up the middle of the car underneath, so I don't have to run it on the left and right side, which would be really cool. Yeah. Ideally.
What we ran into is they used to, I think it was a company in the States called Kennedy, and they used to make the adapter plates.
Yeah, they won't touch mine because it needs the starter motor amount.
Well, the problem we had is we were making too much power, so we just kept ripping the centers out of these plates. In the end, we ended up getting solid billet and had them machined up. And I got a local machine shop to make up a batch of these things, and we did them as solid because they were using like a 2-piece sort of dowed piece of kit. So it's sort of two pieces, and we'd rip the centers out. And so yeah, we had sort of these solid mounts that, one side was still Volkswagen Gearbox, where you could pick up the clutch plate, and on the other side was obviously Subaru 8-bolt, I think it is. So yeah, it worked really well. But it was it'd be interesting to see how your adapters go, because that'd be an interesting bit of kit to make up.
My buddy has one. There was one guy that was years ago that was because it's the Gearbox is the same one as the Boxster.
Yep.
And so he put the same motor in his Boxster, and he made this adapter plate. He's from Arizona. He stopped making them, and he sold the rights to my buddy Matt. So I'm trying to get my buddy Matt just make one more. I need one more of these, please. I'm not going to sell it. I just need it for this project. So I'm trying to convince him. So maybe I'll get a petition or something.
Yeah, no, it'd be good to see that. I think that'd be just something different. I quite like it. It's quite nice that people make cars their own. I think that's the trouble, isn't it? Now, so many people are just doing, stock out the box as it comes, and they don't want to do anything too out there with it. So I think it's great to see something a bit different.
Well, I've got some really cool. I'm very ambitious about this one. I want to put full modern cable activated power windows in it. You know how like we've got the big giant. What are those things called? The big metal. The stock Porsche.
I think you'd call it something like that, isn't it?
Yeah, it starts with an R. What is it? Not receivers. Anyway, regulators, big metal regulators that are in the stock cars. So these modern cable versions with pulleys, they replace all that, and they're far lighter. I'm probably going to be doing Lexan windows all the way around. And there's actually a UK company that makes a whole kit for like $500, and you get the whole car, which is super cool. So I'll probably do that. And then I'm going to do automated pop-out windows. So the quarter windows.
Yeah.
I'm going to motorize those. So you can just flip a switch and your quarter windows will open in the back, which I think is kind of cool.
Yeah. That's
cool. And if I have my druthers, gentlemen, I'm going to make the whole car smart and really annoy the people around me. So the idea is that I'll be at some Cars and Coffee, and I'll be able to say something like, "Hey Siri, it's hot in here," and then all my windows go down and the quarter windows pop out. So that's the vision, is to go like to make the whole car smart.
Excellent.
Well, we'll see. Yeah, it'll be fun.
What's the style going to be like outside? What's the theme of the car?
If you guys want to check it out, I have some concept drawings on my Rennch YouTube channel, or Rennch. It is actually on the YouTube channel. I think it's the third video I did of the blasphemy build. But my Instagram is, unfortunately, I don't have it's _ RENNCH_.
Yeah.
And somewhere down here, let's see, I'm scrolling. I'm sure I have a concept. This was actually a cool story. I was looking for, I was trying to get the concept of what this car was going to be. I was trying to figure out like what publicly to do with this. And I had all of these things written down. So I wrote this, I wrote on Instagram, I said, "Hey, does anybody know how to do concept drawings?" And this guy writes and he goes, "Yeah, I can probably do one for you."
Great.
I go, "Great." And so I called him on the phone. We chatted for a little while, and he says, "Well, I'm about to go out of town, and then I'll come back and I'll do this for you." I said, "Okay, great." So dude goes out of town, and he comes back, and he sends me the most ridiculous drawings I've ever seen. I'm like, these things look like they should be like at a factory tour.
Yeah.
And I go, "Who the hell is this guy?" Well, it turns out he's a designer for a very prominent German car company that I will not mention, but he's the real deal. And I guess I thought I had these things posted on my Instagram, but I don't. But you'll have to check out I think it's video 3 of the blasphemy build.
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Check that out.
It's the one that says twin turbo vintage Porsche.
Uh-huh.
That's the title of that video.
Okay. Cool.
And so it's got like a bit of a I don't want it to be full kind of RSR wide body. I want it to be a little curvier, maybe like a little curvier than an ST, or a little curvier than a RS, but not quite an ST or an RSR, but probably closer to an ST, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I want to get it. I want it to have a little bit of hips, be nice and rounded. In fact, yesterday I was reading about apparently you can take SC flares and reverse them and use them as front flares. So I'm going to look into that. That might be a thing. We'll see. Yeah.
So
certainly I've never done it before, but now I'm feeling cocky with my welder.
This is what I mean, Michael. Like, what have you done like in your previous lives to be able to just say, oh yeah, I'll pick up the welder and give it a go sort of thing, you know, because the everyman, that doesn't go through their head.
I don't know. It should. I mean, I think the initial build of the car was the litmus test, you know. I think just how it turned out. Yeah, so I've never been afraid of working. I really enjoy it. Like, I really enjoy going to the garage and working on it. I love the problem. I love the fix and the problem solving. So I guess I'm not intimidated by it. There's a lot of stuff I don't know. You know, I don't know how to do a lot of mechanical stuff, but so I'm also not afraid to. Yeah. Okay. But I mean, I don't know who's self-taught now that YouTube exists.
This is true.
You know, everyone has an instructor.
I fix too many white goods now using YouTube as well as cars. It's amazing.
How many what?
White goods. So like dishwashers and washing machines. You can fix anything using YouTube.
You know, I actually need my washing machine fixed, so I'm going to fly you out here. That would be great.
No, I can't. I can't get there. There's no planes in the sky.
But I don't know. I do think, though, that with a basic, you know what it was? I'll tell you, actually. I know, I just remembered how this happened. I was working at a magazine publishing shop. I was doing web stuff for them. And one of the designers, her husband, was a guy named Kevin Schrantz. And Kevin was on the Speed Vision World Challenge, which was a racing series in the early 2000s. And he was racing for Acura. He was racing Integra Type Rs with real-time racing. And they said, hey, you know, we've got an event at Pikes Peak, which is a big racetrack down in Colorado. And I went for the weekend, and I got to stand, like literally standing on the pit wall, doing, you know, lap times with a clipboard, and then watching when the car came in, watching the mechanics work on stuff. And they're, you know, one of the cars went into the wall, and they're just whacking it with a hammer and doing whatever they could to get the thing back on the road. And then it just went. And I just remember thinking, that is way less complicated than I thought it was. They were literally hitting it with a hammer. So my car, my Civic, needed a clutch at the time. And I remember I went to, and that's a big deal in a Honda, because you have to pull the engine essentially to get to the gearbox. And I went and bought a Craftsman toolkit, and I replaced the clutch in my garage. And I think it cost me, I don't know, $200 or $250 instead of, you know, $700 or $1,100 or whatever it was going to be. And it was fine. And I said, oh, I can totally do this.
Yeah.
This is you know what I mean? I bought the book. I bought the, you know, Haynes manual or something. And I just did it. I just followed directions, and righty tighty, lefty loosey. And that's really what it was. And now I have way too many tools.
You just don't need to be scared of it, do you? I was very fortunate. I don't think so. I bought a Beetle when I was 16. And I think before, it must have been by the time I was 16 and a half, it was a part on my mum and dad's driveway. And I was beating bits out of it and starting to weld it and grind it. And it's been a good education, and always worked on cars ever since. So you should never be scared of getting your hands dirty.
It's especially with these old ones. They're not as complicated as you think.
No.
Like I said, I think there's some nuance. When you watch, there's another YouTube channel, Mike's Restorations, who does, this guy is, I mean, he's doing a Concours rebuild right now of a 68, I think. It's in slate gray. Uh-huh. And just to watch how this guy approaches every little piece, including like putting the, like a latch on, or, you know, the hood badge, or like, he's got all these tricks to make it look absolutely perfect and untouched. And I go, oh, I would have no idea how to do that. But that's not the world I operate in. You know, I'm a guy that likes to do Targa events and drive 1,500 miles in my car. And then when we do the Targa California a couple years ago, we were like, the first day We drove to this little town in California, did a ton of twisty roads, ended up at Buttonwillow Raceway for 2 hours, did a bunch of hot laps at Buttonwillow, did a bunch of twisty roads, got in a hotel. Next day, went to Monterey, did a bunch of hot laps of Laguna Seca. Actually, I forgot Willow Springs, then Laguna Seca, and then rallied all the way back home and parked my car 1,500 miles later. And it's the car just goes, what else do you need, boss? That's what I love about these things. They're built like tanks, and I want to be able to drive them, and I don't mind having patina.
Yeah.
And I don't need it to be a show car. But I will tell you, because it's happened to me a number of times, that when I'm at some Cars and Coffee and there's, 3 Lambos next to me, that my car is getting more attention than those are.
Yeah.
And that's because I think it's a real enthusiast car,
Yeah, agreed.
I just think we should use them. You should use them, and if something breaks, you should fix it. That's all it is.
Makes sense, doesn't it? I'm interested to touch back on the some of the road trips, because I think you've had some pretty epic trips in your cars along the way. I mean, where's your what's your favorite go to in the year, or what's been the standout ones that you've sort of hit in the car so far?
Typically, the Targa California is organized by TRE Motorsports, Dave Buzoglu, and Dave has been a California native. I mean, he's been here forever, and he knows these roads. First of all, he knows them better than the back of his hand, but he knows these roads that are a video game. I mean, you can't believe that this road is a legal human road that you get to drive on. It is literally like you're in Assetto Corsa or something. You can't believe it. It's like a one-way road for 40 minutes that is undulating, 2-lane, lovely, nice. And you go, what the fuck? How is this possible? And so what he does is every year he makes a new route. And so we go for typically like 4 or 5 days, and it's, all day of driving. And it's all typically between, I would say, Los Angeles and San Francisco. So there's a whole big mountain range there, going to the east and the west. And just in those roads are spectacular. And they're just spectacular drives. So that's typically my favorite. But he also does the Targa Baja, which is, we're here in Southern California. When I lived in San Diego, Mexico was 15 minutes away. Yeah. And Mexico has a couple of very interesting things. Number one, when we cross the border, it's crazy. It's like there's a ticker tape parade, and we just came back from war. Like the whole city is out, and they're holding signs, and they welcome, and they're all on the streets, because we have 50 or 60 vintage Porsches that are coming across the border. So it's kind of a cool thing for them to see, I guess. But what happens is the federales, which are the state police, they escort us. And so I swear, you guys, it's like the president is going through these towns, because we have no stop signs. We have no stoplights. The cops are all at every single light, and they're on motorcycles, and they just go blazing by us, and they shut down the streets as we're driving, and they move people out of the way, and they're just like, go, 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 go. These bikes going zong, zong, zong. It's crazy.
Is it pre-organized?
So that's super cool.
Or they just...
Yeah, it's pre-organized. Yeah. It's pre-organized every year. We do it like in November.
Are the cops pre-organized?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. The guy who runs it on the Mexico side, knows everybody. I guess. And so then we get a Federales escort the entire trip. And then there's 1 or 2 cars that are with us the whole time. And we have a full support vehicle. So there's like a tow vehicle with all the tools you need and whatever that tails behind everybody. And so we're covered from a safety standpoint and from a car breakdown standpoint. And you think, oh, that's a bummer. There's cops with you the whole time. Well, the first year I was there, the cop was racing my buddy Steve. They were at 160 miles an hour, and the cop was taking a selfie of him and the guy next to him. And so the rule we have, they do this every year. They say, just don't go 200. That's the rule.
Jeez.
Otherwise, there's no rule. So and the roads aren't quite, they're a little more open. And for me, it's a little sketchier, because if you get into an accident in Mexico, it's very different than getting into an accident here. Yeah. I think it's illegal. So it's like illegal to get into an accident, whether it was your fault or not, and they can arrest you. It's this crazy deal.
Yeah.
So we did have an incident a couple of years ago where a guy made a too aggressive of a pass and just ended up. You wouldn't believe what this guy's car looked like, and you wouldn't think he survived. But yeah, you know, it's cool because it's the Wild West, and you can do anything you want there.
Yeah, but also a bit scary. But that adds to it all, doesn't it?
A little scary, you know. Yeah. But yeah, you're drinking margaritas, you're going to wineries. It's pretty fun.
Cool. And
generally not in your own like water bottle.
How much does it cost?
Like not while you're driving.
How much does it cost to bribe the police, or is that?
Well, that's a good question. I don't know. I haven't had to bribe them yet, but I imagine it's probably a couple $100.
Yeah.
The trips are, I think it's about $500 to register for the Targa events.
Wow.
It goes through NASA, which is what is it? National Automotive Sports, whatever, Sports Car Association. So it's like a NASA. So it's a licensed event through a sanctioning body, which is why I think they can do it. You know,
and
I think we have the
how many cars?
PCA, SCCA. We'll get 50 cars for the Mexico event and like 100 something for the American, for the USA one.
And what are the rules about cars? Is it pre
74? Okay. Oh no, that could be wrong. I think I think it is pre 74.
Okay,
but Dave makes exceptions.
Yeah,
fairly often.
Nice.
So yeah, but it's. I mean, what a time. There's no modern cars on it though.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like no one's rolling up in a GT2 or something.
Yeah. You've got guys that know what to do when their cars go wrong. Guys that are a bit more sensible, not going to go through in their crazy cars, revving their nuts off and all that sort of stuff.
But how much better are the old cars? I mean, to be able to bring them to the limit and, you know, to find a limit in a GT3 RS, you're going 150 miles an hour.
Absolutely.
You know,
yeah.
I have a Panamera for a daily driver. And it's like, that car doesn't even talk to you. It doesn't even want you to talk to it unless you're going 100 miles an hour, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, don't even talk to me right now. It's just, it wants to go 150 all day long because it's just how it's built. It's built to be this giant GT touring car.
Yeah, that's it.
So these, you know, 100 miles an hour in my RSR feels like I'm going 1,000.
Absolutely.
You know, it's like hanging on for dear life and you're focusing and you're like, huh. So that's what I like about it. You can feel it sliding. You can feel the brakes. You can feel all the analog that you want.
Yeah.
It's amazing how many people are sort of finding that realization that actually you can have more fun going a little bit slower. And yeah, you just pick up so much more. So much more in an older car than like you said, the newer cars that, you just don't, there isn't anywhere to use them really.
I do like I love the long road trips. It's why I got the classic retrofit air conditioning in my car. I did a multi-part YouTube install of that.
Yeah, I saw that.
And what a game changer. What a game changer.
What's that kit like? Did that start life over in the UK?
Yeah. Johnny Hart from Classic Retrofit in the UK. Yep. He sent one over. I did a multi-part install of it. And those of you who have air conditioning in your cars won't think this is a big deal, but to have an AC in a 69 911 and to be able to actually close the windows when you're on the highway and or have a conversation with someone is a complete game changer.
Yeah.
I mean, crazy. And if you ever want to take a wife or a girlfriend anywhere, because they don't want to be all, sweaty by the time you get there, you can actually bring your car and it's comfortable and it just changes the world to have that thing. It's great.
So install went well?
Yeah, I had to customize it because they make it for G-body 911s, so the sort of 74 through 89, and they don't have it uses that front end of the G-body as the mount for the condenser.
Yeah.
So I had to create a custom bracket and do all this stuff in my car to mount the condenser in the back, but otherwise it was pretty straightforward, and it works great. It's a great piece of kit, as you all might say.
Excellent. What other plans do you have for the Grey Ghost?
Getting Boxster brakes.
Yeah.
So Boxster non-S brakes still fit under 15-inch wheels.
Uh-huh.
And Dave from TRE he sent me the kit already, but he's got to send me the calipers, and I'll just refurb those and then do. I think if I have one complaint about how that car drives, it's that I don't love the brakes.
Yeah.
They're stock. They're fine. They're Carrera brakes, but I think something's up with them. I don't know what it is. I've tried pretty much everything, but I might have bad lines or whatever it is. But I thought, you know what? Let me just do this because I don't think a lot of people know you can put these really nice big aluminum calipers that are light. They look great. They're super powerful under 15-inch wheels. So Dave wants me to do a video of that, and I'll help him sell the kit. So I'll definitely do that. Yeah. And I might, one more thing, Andrew from Ressant might want to do a little feature on his, do you guys know Ressant, Rasant?
Yeah, that's the independent throttle bodies they do.
Oh, don't they? It's just jewelry. Yeah. It's jewelry in your engine compartment. But he wants to do a kit. So I might do a multi-part video with him and sort of show that whole thing. So I might end up doing that at some point. Yeah, which would be really cool because that's like what an upgrade.
Oh, definitely. That's one of the things that I would really like to do to my 993. Well, sort of at the end of our podcast, we always like to do a little 10-question quick fire round. I was wondering if you're up for that, Michael.
Hit me.
Okay, so you need to fire these out fairly quickly. Not too much thinking about it. Number 1, air or water?
Air. Leaning on water.
Yes. Favorite Porsche model?
959.
Favorite Porsche color?
Oh God, I forget the name of it. It's this cool sapphire blue that's on the new Panamera and the new. It's like a painted sample
as well, isn't it? Yeah.
It's a killer
sapphire blue metallic.
It's beautiful. Is that what it is? Sapphire blue metallic.
Yeah.
Oh, it's such a color.
Nice.
That.
Okay. Who is your ultimate Porsche icon?
I guess it'd be. I was going to say Steve McQueen, but it might be Patrick Long.
Good choice.
Awesome, to be fair. Yeah, good response.
Yeah. Your favorite track?
That I've actually driven in real life or a lot in the sim racing.
Yeah, whichever you feel.
I really like a track called Button Willow here in California. It's really fun.
Uh-huh.
I enjoy that one a lot. And then I love Laguna Seca as well.
Nice. Tafouche or not Tafouche?
Yes, sometimes. I think if you're building an RSR, you don't have a choice. I think it's the right wheel. And if you're building anything else, then go nuts. Do something else. I'm not going to be running them on my new car.
Stock or hot rod?
Hot rod. Stock cars bore. Actually, part of the other reason why I don't like these car shows is because stock cars bore the crap out of me.
Indeed. Yeah.
They really do.
Yeah,
they're like just like a pristine 71 911S. I'm like, I don't care. Can you make it go faster?
Yeah. Okay. Narrow or wide body?
Wide.
Okay.
Ish.
Cars and coffee or track day?
Track day.
And do you backseat or do you not backseat?
I don't have a backseat in my car, if that's what the question is. I luggage.
Okay. Well, that's cool.
That's what's back there. Yeah.
That's
there was one I wanted to qualify. What was it? Oh, yeah, the Patrick Long one.
Yes, go for it.
I've seen, first of all, he's a complete and utter ferocious driver. He's a complete badass on the track. But I've also seen him, he's such a killer. I don't know if Porsche even knows how great of ambassador he is to their company. Yeah. He knows all of the history. He's so deeply immersed in the brand story. And when he's interviewed, it's like going through a history lesson. He just knows everything about this marque. He's so nice. And then he's going to turn around and make Luft for us to play with.
Indeed.
He's just I don't know why I haven't interviewed him, actually. I keep meaning to, and I just haven't gotten around to it yet. But yeah, he's kind of my current Porsche hero. I think he does. And he's young and, he just does all the things.
Michael, I really appreciate your time as always. We all do. And yes, we shall be spreading the message high, far and wide for Rennch, and Rennch is Rennch. Correct?
That's right. That's right.
All the absolute best with Rennch going forward, and yes, we'll hope to talk to you again soon.
Oh, guys, thanks so much, man. It's been really fun. It's cool to talk. It's cool to talk about this stuff. This is not a subject I always get to talk about, so it was a lot of fun for me. Thanks.
What an interesting fella.
He was. He can talk, but he's interesting.
Is it me, or do the guys over in the US generally, they're just much better tinkerers than us? I know I've mentioned this before, but like they're just so much more adept at picking up spanners.
It's your ineptness, Lee.
Do you think? I mean, I thought you might say that, Andy, but you are definitely a tinkerer. But I just feel like generally, like their mechanical knowledge tends to be a little bit better than ours.
No, I'm with you with that. I think
you're down on yourself.
So it sounds like I agree to disagree there, but it was lots learned. So we do appreciate Michael's time. We have also got a shout out, haven't we, for great roads. In an up and coming episode, we're going to be talking about the best roads that we're going to be hitting up as soon as we're allowed to, as soon as legislation permits. And we basically would like some inspiration from people listening at home. So please share with us your greatest road. And we look forward to sharing that insider information with other petrol heads.
Right, that sounds good. Let's sign off until next time. Good to see you all.